these reviews, one of the really nice things is I get introduced to different cameras I might not have used before. And at the moment I seem to be going through a mid-60s single lens reflex camera thing. I recently used this Ricoh single lens, which I really liked, and then at the same time I found in a shop in Dorchester, in a second-hand shop, this Mamyia, and it was incredibly well priced, and I hadn't used one of these before. So I bought it. Initially it didn't seem to work with the battery, but I cleaned up the battery contacts and put a film through, and I found this is a really fascinating camera. And at first sight it is very similar to other single lens reflex cameras of the time. Now, where it begins to change is when you look through the viewfinder, we see a S and an A. S and A could be shutter and aperture, but it's not. It is spot and average. In the 60s, Pentax brought out the Spotmatic, which was initially going to be a camera which used spot metering, which was why it was called a Spotmatic. And I'm pretty sure in the end it didn't use spot metering, it used average metering. What is spot metering? I hear some of you say. Some of you, I'm sure, are very experienced of using spot metering. Well, when a camera meters, you can, or when you actually do any form of photography, you need to make a choice how you are metering. Do you have, because if you imagine your view, there's different points of exposure. So do you, for instance, the camera filming me now, and I have had an interesting issue on this, do I expose on my face, on the paintings at the back, or the room? It would make sense that you would say the face. So the area of the nose is actually the spot. It's actually a small area, where generally is an average area. And indeed, when I've been making these videos, you notice one or two of them seem a little bit dark, and that is because the average meter does the average and not on the spot nose. So the great interesting thing about this camera is it had the choice. Now, on a modern digital camera, on a DSLR, you have lots of choices of average meter, spot metering, and different matrix of metering. But this was something quite new in '67. So, and there's something else slightly strange, well, not strange, different on this camera. To operate the meter, to switch the meter on, you actually press in the advanced lever. You actually press in to activate the meter. On the Nikon, if you remember, you slightly bring it out and it sort of knocks you in the eye. This is I think a really sensible design. You just press it in and that activates the meter. Now on the side you have a small button here which says S or A, and that is your choice. Are you going to do a spot metering or an average meter? So you put on there, you then press in, and the camera actually has to stop down to do its meter, but it will then operate the meter, and this is working very well. To open the camera, to load the film, is very conventional, manually wind. You have a cloth focal plane shutter, pretty conventional, but still a nice thing. Printer prism, shutter speeds up to 1,000 of a second and 1 second, and bulb. Self timer. The lens is a Mamiya Seiko 1.855mm. At the time, because of the spot metering, Mamiya very much claimed it to be a very advanced camera. I think that was playing it a bit right, but it was a pretty advanced camera. It's a very nice camera to use. Let's see how I actually got on when I put a film for it. Right, this photograph of the house, this is the average reading, which is okay, but it is a little bit dark. The detail of the brickwork really isn't showing up then, so when I actually changed and did a spot meter, I think that is a far more successful image. I think the first image would have been something like f8, and then I think I was f5.6. I went down to West Bay, which is a lovely, interesting bay near Bridport, and it was a really stormy day, and the light wasn't very good, and you can see that here. But the lens is relatively sharp. I got some nice detail with the cloud. The graduation of greys is nice. I was actually really enjoyed using this camera. The little thing I was explaining about pressing the winder in to activate the meter actually worked really well. The metering was interesting, definitely on buildings. Again, this St John's Church, the two here, this image here, which is absolutely fine, which I think is far better than the second image. The first image was actually spot room metering, and the second was average. So on the big landscape, the spot metering I don't think has an awful lot of influence, where when you are doing buildings and detail, it is really useful. Having said that, I think as a photographer, I sort of automatically will look at a building, I will look at a scene and say, oh, I need to come up a stop, or I need to go down a stop, or that's about right. Experience tells you quite a lot. I actually, as you probably got the indication, really liked this camera. I was surprised. I picked it up for a very reasonable sum, and I'm going to keep hold of it for a bit because, as I said, it was a nice camera to use. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.